Hello and welcome to another episode of Coconut Chats. To all our listeners and all our audiences who've been listening to us, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Your comments and feedbacks are very well appreciated. And to all of you who are listening to us for the first time, I can guarantee that this is going to be a very interesting and a very thought-provoking conversation because the topic that we are going to be speaking on today is all the struggles a single mother has had to face. And on that topic, we have a very interesting guest speaker with us on board. I'll come to her intro later, but let me first introduce to you my friend and co-host of the podcast, Harita.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Chris.
Hello. And coming back to our guest speaker, she's a dynamic, talented young lady, Shabnam Bhojwani. Shabnam, first of all, thank you for joining us and being on board with us. Thank you. How are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you, Chris, for having me on your show, and Harita as well. I'm really excited about being here. And like I said earlier, you have very interesting topics, and I enjoyed listening to them.
Thank you, Shabnam. All right. Before we crack on to the main podcast and chat thing, I would please request you to kind of introduce yourself and the amazing work you're doing to us and our listeners too.
So I've lived and grown up in Taiwan most of my life. I now live in India and I've been here for nearly 12 years. I have two daughters, a 19 and a 23-year-old. I have a jewelry business and I am an art therapist.
Wow. And I've seen your jewelry collection. I'm blown away. So they are like beautiful, beautiful. All right, Shabnam, now that you've seen and heard the topic, so we know that the struggles and the decision you have to make. So when and what led you to take this decision? What kind of led you to walk out of it and so that you could handle as a single mother?
Okay, so I was married for 18 years and it was a very difficult decision to make to leave after such a long marriage. The main reason I would say is we had changed as people over the years. We had different interests, views on things, and we just could not get along. And it was quite terrible, actually. And I realized that I was miserable and unhappy with the person that I had become. Apart from that, the constant fights and bickering, they started to affect the children too. Yeah. So we did do counseling. But at the end, I landed up going for them on my own, alone. And that's when I realized that it was okay for me to leave if I was unhappy. And so I took the first step by discussing separation with my ex-husband and divorce. It wasn't taken well. I was given two choices, that either you live here and you live with the way things are, or you take the girls and you leave, and you live your life on your own. You manage on your own.
Yep.
So it's pretty obvious what I decided.
So, Shabnam, when you said that you were growing as different people, back in India, a lot of people take that as normal. That all people will change and people or you just grow to live with it. So do you think that that is normal to live with a changed person, or this is completely a myth?
I think it's very important to adjust in a marriage, and you will have different interests. But I think it's also important to respect each other and let each other, the other person grow. And if that is not happening, then I think it would be or if you're unhappy about it, then I think it's something you really need to seriously look into.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Shabnam, before we move on to the second question, Harita, do you have anything to ask Shabnam or anything to reflect on that?
Yeah, I guess this question is a little bit different, but because you said you mostly grew up in Taiwan and you only moved to India 12 years ago. So I was just wondering, did you go through all of this when you were in Taiwan, or did this marriage breakup happen in India? Because I know the two countries can have very different societal norms.
Yes, we did have our fights while we were in Taiwan. But for some reason, I was still okay and able to accept the situation. I think for me, moving to India, it was very difficult. It was a culture shock in a way, and then dealing with the way people thought and expected me to play my role as a wife. That was very difficult for me. You're supposed to do the wife thing, and you're supposed to give up on things that you want to do, and I just could not do that.
Yeah. And this expectation was coming to you after how many years, Shabnam? That when were you being faced with these questions and norms of being a wife?
After 16 years of being married. Yeah. So it was, having to cover my head, for example. I lived in Taiwan wearing shorts, so it was very different. But, I respected the tradition. But maybe being able to work or taking on a job, it wasn't necessary according to them. So I guess different families have different ways in living their lives. Yeah.
So moving to India kind of made all the problems that were bubbling up come up to the surface in a way.
They did, yes. But saying that, 10 years ago and India now, there's such a drastic change. People are liberal. There's so many more divorces. People are open to it now. And I think it's easier for women today.
Yeah, I think so too. But this makes me come to my next question for you, Shabnam. So speaking of the Indian society or the society at large, so how has the society been accepting your status as a single mother or a single parent?
Okay, so I'm just going to first go to how it was just normally in my everyday life. A simple thing like having to change my name in the passport. It took me 22 visits to the passport office because they had labeled me as I had done something wrong. So like I said, I was 10 years ago, but doing simple things took much longer and they were much more challenging. And as society, I was suddenly not invited to family dinners of friends that were close to my children.
Yeah.
So basically, it was if there were husbands, I was not invited. That is what it was like. Yeah, there were some bad experiences, like going for a wedding, and somebody would say, "Why is she here?" Because she would bring bad luck to a bride. So yes, it's interesting because you see this mindset in movies, and you read about it, but you don't really see it in your daily life. But it does happen. I don't know how much of it happens now, but yes, I'm sure it does in villages. Yeah.
And would you say, Shabnam, I mean, again, it's just, I'm asking for your opinion. Would you say the situation has drastically changed in the Indian scenario, or it is still the same, but nobody really addresses it?
I think it's still the same, but I do have to say that women are more modern and they're more confident now. They have more support.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's much better now.
It is.
Yeah.
I think the whole concept of getting a separation just because you're not happy, your happiness matters. I think that's gaining a lot of attention. People are just not putting you down, or you can't take a divorce because of your happiness, right? And I see that quite often, and I think that's a positive change. Again, Harita, on that note, any thoughts or notes or questions for Shabnam?
Yeah, I want to know not just society, but how was your immediate family? How did they react to your divorce? Your parents or your siblings. Did they support you, or did they try to encourage you to not get divorced?
So I would say they were my biggest strength, and they encouraged me to leave because I was so unhappy, and they saw how unhappy I was. There was a lot of emotional abuse. And they saw what it did to me. I guess I was lucky to have that support. But initially, yes, my parents would say, you really should deal with it, and these things happen in a marriage. But when they saw that it was going downhill, they told me it was fine and just come home, even if we have to manage.
That's good.
On that, Shabnam, a quick question. You just mentioned that there was a lot of emotional abuse, right? I know for a fact that still till date, in a lot of Indian families, emotional abuse is not considered a valid reason enough to kind of just, walk away from your husband. They said, oh, you need to adjust, as you mentioned. So, what would be your one-liner here to all those women who are being emotionally abused, but they are kind of convinced that no, this is not a reason enough to stay away from their husband? What would you say to all those women?
I would say that you should not tolerate it. You cannot, basically, no one is allowed to speak to you in that manner, even if he's your husband. They're really, I think respect is really missing in a lot of relationships.
Yep.
I do feel that a lot of women are scared to leave because they're financially not strong enough. I think that is really, they may be strong emotionally, but and they may even have the support of their family, but financially they're just not sound. And I think that is, I would tell a lot of women, you must work when you're married in India. You just cannot stop and say, I'm going to be taken care of. That would be one of the biggest mistakes.
Yeah.
But again, Shabnam, on that note, I know we have to get going on the other question, but I'm very tempted to ask this. There's this trend of how women get married to men working in the States. And earlier, there used to be the spouse visa where you had no work rights. So basically, you were just a stay-at-home wife. Today, you have rights, but that's a different picture. So what would be our suggestion to those women who have had to cut their life to join their partners in a different country they know nothing about? What would be your message to them?
That's quite scary, actually.
I know.
I really don't know how to answer that. Okay. I would suggest that they would at least study or do something. It's just important to keep on rebuilding yourself. Maybe you may not be able to bring in money financially, but you need to be doing something besides cooking and taking care of the house. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the positive side. So we know you're a successful entrepreneur, you have your amazing jewelry line, and you're an art therapist. So how does this situation in particular help you in reaching your dreams? And in this question, I also have another question is what is the struggle that you had to face in looking after your two daughters, and what was the constant communication you had with them? So how did you juggle work, entrepreneurship, and two little daughters?
Okay, so I started because I had to be financially sound. I had to get going, especially because I got married when I was 21. I had not really finished my education. Yeah. So I got to, working immediately, like 10 days after I left. I took the first job I could get. And I started teaching design, and I took some time to dwell on what I wanted to do, and I started this jewelry brand called Adrisya, which was a hobby business. Okay. At that time I was emotionally not very strong, so that was as much as I could do and handle the kids. But as the years passed, I started doing more. I had got a lot of support and help, and I decided it's time to sort of give back. So I'd go to the slums and help the children there, and I realized that I need to study what I had. And I went back to re-educating myself, and I became a proper art therapist. Now, what I really had to learn to handle was time management. Being a single mom, wanting to do all of this, studying and managing the kids, time management was so essential. So I would study in the nights, work in the day, and the minute they were home, I was constantly with them, being there to drop them for their classes, basically listening to them. Yeah. So they wouldn't feel that gap, that loss.
But when you moved out, Shabnam, when you decided to kind of separate, how difficult was it to convey that message through to the kids? Like, look, this is happening, mom and dad are going different ways. How difficult or easy was it?
So I think the age mattered. My older daughter had seen a lot. So she herself, told me it was fine. We could have conversations. But the younger one was very angry. And there's probably still some anger in her, but she's okay now. But she was angry. So it, and that was the second issue I had, which was juggling between being a mom, a father, and a friend.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be so careful what you answer when, what role you need to play when.
Yeah.
Now we're all, you know, comfortable with the situation, and they're smart. They know which buttons to press when they want something. But yeah.
That's amazing. All right, moving on to the next question. Before I move on, Harita, anything for Shabnam?
No, I think you've covered everything there. But one thing I was just kind of wondering, how old were your daughters when you went through the divorce?
7 and 11. We keep saying 7-11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's quite a young age to kind of process so many things.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they are coming out to be very strong daughters, strong
They
women, rather.
Mm.
All right, Shabnam, our last question, or I should say, nearing the end. So, in your opinion, I know for a fact that getting a woman remarried is still a very not so talked about topic in the Indian scenario. A man can get easily remarried on the pretext of, oh, who's going to look after the family, la la la. But a woman seeking remarriage is looked with a kind of, sarcasm and taunt and all that. So, you have walked such a difficult journey or such a enhancing journey in your life. What would be your suggestion or opinion on a single mother or a single father? Should they ever consider getting remarried if they find love, if they find that companionship in their life?
I think definitely if you find the right companion and somebody that you get along with, for sure. I do strongly believe that you cannot go looking for love. I see a lot of people looking for a partner. That's not the way to go. I would suggest that it's important to spend time alone, spend time with yourself, spend time with your children, and really love just comes along. You know, you have to trust it, and it's very important to understand that a companion or partner is someone that's going to be part of your journey.
Yeah.
He is not going to be the person who's going to solve your problems, which is what I see a lot of here. So,
Nice. One more question,
yeah.
Shabnam. It was just playing on my mind all the while. So, do you think as a person, how important or how not important is it to leave a loveless marriage? Like in India, a lot of us just get married because, oh, age, society, just get married. Then you realize, oh, the marriage doesn't have any love at all. I am sleeping or I'm spending time with the person, but there is no love. So, if I ask you as a woman, how important is it to have a marriage which has love? Or do you think this is a reason enough to walk away from the marriage?
I think there would be so many other factors to look at.
Yeah.
If you can walk away from a loveless marriage, I would say I would suggest you leave. Why not spend the rest of your life with somebody that you would enjoy being with, rather than live your life loveless?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But because the society is so high and dry on this thought that this is not a reason enough, and I see so many people are just suffering. They are married, but they're not in love. So I really wanted to ask this question to you, that you've seen so much. What do you think, that should women still be stuck in that society and that marriage?
No, they should. I don't want to say they should leave, because divorce is not easy, and you should always keep a strong family for your children. But try getting counseling. Counseling is such a taboo over here. Try talking to somebody. Try doing things that normal couples do, and make an effort. I see a lot of women doing it, but I would like to see the husband do it as well. And stop playing the playing game.
Yeah.
Another thing that I see here, which I really, really feel, is victimhood. I am a victim because I'm a divorcee. This is why my life has gone this way. And I really, that is not a reason. Pull up your socks and get with it, because everybody has something that has happened in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned, sorry, Harita, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that whole mentality of having to tolerate being in a loveless marriage kind of comes from our parents and grandparents' generation, where they had arranged marriages where they did not even know the person they were marrying until they got married, and they come from the mindset that when you first marry each other, you don't actually know each other, but you work at making a life together. And I think in their generation, the concept love doesn't even come into it. They just think, okay, we're married now. Now we form a house together. Okay, now a few years later we have kids. They go through the motions of life together, and then to them it's like love just kind of happens on the way, but they don't even know if they really are in love. Like, that's probably more my grandparents' generation, because how are you going to love someone that you've only seen in a photo or at your wedding day, how they got married a few generations ago. So to them, they don't even understand this concept of love, and they just think, well, he's financially providing for you, or he's giving you a safe life, a happy life, that should be enough.
Exactly, yes. But I mean, it's good to see that now people date, they get to know each other, and thankfully media, social, WhatsApp and Facebook has maybe been a blessing where people can communicate with each other a bit more. Yes. So things have changed. They look like they're going to be better.
Yeah. We just have to keep with a positive hope, right?
Yes.
That things will be better. Well, on that note, Shabnam, that was a very, very engaging and interesting conversation. We cannot thank you enough for sparing your time to come and speak with us. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To all our listeners, please leave us your thoughts and comments on coconutchats@gmail.com. We also have a YouTube channel called Coconut Chats. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back again with a very interesting episode next week. Till then, stay safe, stay loving, and keep loving people around you. Till then, it's a goodbye from all of us. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.